The Vatican had always been a place of tradition, order, and carefully measured words. But on a brisk morning in Rome, a sense of unease swept through the marble corridors. Whispers traveled quickly among the clergy and staff, growing louder with each passing hour. The cause was a statement released by Pope Leo XIV, a document that would send shockwaves through the global Catholic community. In it, the Pope directly accused Bishop Barron, a prominent figure known for his intellectual approach to faith, of heresy. The language was uncharacteristically blunt, leaving little room for ambiguity. The news broke across international media within minutes, igniting a storm of speculation, disbelief, and outrage. Bishop Barron, respected by many for his thoughtful engagement with modern culture and theology, had long been a voice for dialogue between the Church and the contemporary world. His writings and videos reached millions, and his influence extended far beyond the borders of his diocese. The accusation from the highest authority in the Church was unprecedented. Journalists scrambled for details, theologians debated the implications, and the faithful were left to wonder what could have prompted such a dramatic move. For some, it was a sign of deepening divisions within the Church. For others, it was a necessary defense of doctrine. The statement from Pope Leo XIV cited a series of recent lectures and publications by Bishop Barron, claiming they contained views incompatible with core Catholic teachings. The specific points of contention were not immediately disclosed, fueling further speculation. Some believed the dispute centered on Barron's interpretations of salvation and the possibility of universal reconciliation, topics he had addressed in recent months. Others suspected deeper disagreements about the role of tradition authority and the Church's relationship with the modern world. The lack of detail only heightened the sense of crisis. Within hours, the Vatican press office was inundated with requests for clarification. Spokespersons maintained a careful neutrality, repeating that the matter was under review and that further information would be provided in due course. Meanwhile, supporters and critics of both Pope Leo XIV and Bishop Barron took to social media, expressing outrage, confusion, and support in equal measure. Hashtags related to the scandal trended worldwide, and opinion pieces flooded news outlets. The Church, already navigating a period of rapid change and internal debate, now faced a controversy that threatened to overshadow all else. As the world waited for a response from Bishop Barron, speculation mounted. Would he defend his views, apologize, or remain silent? Would the Vatican proceed with formal charges, or was this a warning meant to bring him back in line? The stakes were high for all involved. For Pope Leo XIV, the decision to go public with the accusation risked deepening existing rifts within the Church. For Bishop Barron, his reputation, ministry, and future as a leader in the Catholic world hung in the balance. Late that evening, Bishop Barron released a statement of his own. It was measured, respectful, and direct. He expressed surprise at the accusation, reaffirmed his commitment to the teachings of the Church, and invited an open and honest dialogue about the issues at hand. He did not recant his previous statements, nor did he attack the Pope. Instead, he called for unity, charity, and a renewed focus on the mission of the Church in a divided world. His response was widely praised for its tone and substance, but it did little to quell the controversy. The following days saw an escalation of debate. Catholic scholars and clergy weighed in, some defending Bishop Barron's approach as faithful to the spirit of Vatican II, others warning that doctrinal clarity must not be sacrificed for the sake of dialogue. Lay Catholics, too, found themselves divided, with some expressing deep concern about the direction of the Church, and others insisting that open debate was a sign of vitality, not weakness. Across the globe, parishes and communities held meetings and discussions, seeking guidance and reassurance in a time of uncertainty. Behind the scenes, Vatican officials worked to manage the fallout. Meetings were held, documents reviewed, and advisors consulted. The Pope, known for his strong convictions and willingness to confront difficult issues, remained silent in public, fueling rumors about his intentions. Some insiders suggested that the accusation was part of a broader effort to reassert traditional authority within the Church. Others believed it reflected a genuine concern about the boundaries of acceptable theological discourse. Whatever the motivation, the impact was undeniable. As the days unfolded, the impact of the Pope's accusation began to ripple through every level of the Church. Diocesan leaders convened emergency meetings to discuss the implications for their own communities. Seminaries and Catholic universities found themselves at the center of heated debates as students and faculty questioned what the controversy meant for academic freedom and the future of theological exploration. Some professors defended Bishop Barron's right to engage with challenging topics, arguing that honest inquiry was essential to the vitality of the faith. Others warned that too much openness risked undermining the Church's doctrinal foundations. In parishes around the world, priests faced difficult questions from parishioners. Some sought reassurance that the Church remained united, while others expressed concern that the scandal would drive more people away from the faith. In many places, the controversy became a catalyst for renewed interest in Church teaching. Bible study groups and catechism classes swelled in size as people sought to understand the issues at stake. The scandal, while unsettling, had awakened a new level of engagement among the faithful. Media coverage intensified, with news outlets devoting entire segments to the unfolding crisis. Commentators analyzed every word from the Vatican, and Bishop Barron searching for clues about the next steps. Some suggested that the Pope's bold move was a calculated effort to reassert papal authority in a time of growing dissent. Others speculated that internal pressures had forced his hand, pointing to a broader struggle between reformers and traditionalists within the Church hierarchy. Theories multiplied, but facts remained scarce. Behind closed doors, a small group of cardinals and advisors worked tirelessly to craft a path forward. They understood that the Church's credibility was at stake, not only among Catholics, but also in the eyes of the world. Every decision was weighed carefully, with an eye toward both justice and unity. Some advocated for a public debate between the Pope and Bishop Barron, hoping that open dialogue might heal the rift. Others urged a more discreet resolution, warning that further publicity would only deepen divisions. Bishop Barron, meanwhile, continued his ministry as usual, visiting parishes, speaking at conferences, and maintaining his public presence. He refused to be drawn into personal attacks or polemics, instead emphasizing the importance of charity and understanding. His calm demeanor won him praise from many quarters, but also criticism from those who expected a more forceful defense. He reiterated his loyalty to the Church and the Pope while standing by his theological positions. For his supporters, this was a sign of strength and integrity. For his detractors, it was evidence of stubbornness. As the controversy dragged on, some voices within the Church called for reconciliation. Letters poured into the Vatican from bishops, theologians, and laypeople urging the Pope to seek common ground. Petitions circulated online, gathering thousands of signatures in support of Bishop Barron. At the same time, a smaller but vocal group demanded swift action, insisting that heresy could not be tolerated at any level. The polarization was stark, and the stakes seemed to grow higher with each passing day. International Catholic organizations weighed in, some offering to mediate, others issuing statements of solidarity with one side or the other. The scandal became a global event, drawing attention from religious and secular leaders alike. Interfaith groups expressed concern about the potential for lasting damage to the Church's moral authority. The world watched as the Vatican deliberated, waiting for a resolution that seemed increasingly elusive. Amid the turmoil, Pope Leo XIV remained largely silent, appearing in public only for major liturgical events. His homilies were closely analyzed for hidden messages, but he offered no direct comment on the controversy. Some interpreted his silence as a sign of resolve, others as uncertainty. The ambiguity only fueled further speculation, with some insiders suggesting that the Pope was consulting with trusted advisors before making a final decision. As the crisis entered its third week, rumors began to circulate about a possible synod, an extraordinary gathering of bishops to address the theological issues at the heart of the dispute. Such a meeting would be unprecedented in recent history and would signal the seriousness with which the Vatican viewed the matter. The prospect of open debate between leading figures in the Church excited some and alarmed others. All agreed, however, that the outcome would have far-reaching consequences for the future of Catholicism. As speculation about the synod grew, the Vatican quietly reached out to key bishops and theologians across continents, seeking their counsel. The responses reflected the diversity of thought within the Church. Some urged decisive action to reaffirm doctrine and discipline, while others pleaded for patience and dialogue. The tension between these camps was palpable, and every word from Rome was scrutinized for hints of the direction the Pope might take. Meanwhile, Bishop Barron's supporters organized prayer vigils and public forums, emphasizing unity and the importance of respectful debate. In cities from Los Angeles to Manila, gatherings drew crowds of the faithful, many holding candles and signs calling for peace and understanding. The bishop himself, while avoiding direct confrontation, addressed these events through video messages, encouraging his followers to remain steadfast in faith and charity. He reminded them that the Church had weathered storms before, and that the pursuit of truth must always be guided by love. Inside the Vatican, the Pope's advisors debated late into the night. Some argued that a public trial or synod would risk turning a theological dispute into a spectacle, further dividing the faithful. Others insisted that only transparency and open discussion could restore trust. The Pope listened carefully, aware that his next move would shape not only his own legacy, but also the future of the global Church. International media continued to amplify the drama. Headlines speculated about possible outcomes. Would Bishop Barron be excommunicated? Would the Pope retract his accusation? Would the Church split along ideological lines? Television panels featured theologians, former Vatican officials, and even secular commentators, each offering their own analysis. The controversy had become more than an internal Church matter. It was now a global event, watched by millions with fascination and concern. In seminaries and universities, the scandal became a case study in ecclesial authority and the boundaries of theological exploration. Professors led discussions on the history of heresy, accusations, the development of doctrine, and the role of dissent in the life of the Church. Students debated passionately, some expressing anxiety about the future, others inspired by the intensity of the debate. The crisis, though painful, had sparked a renewed engagement with the intellectual and spiritual heritage of Catholicism. Amid the uncertainty, some voices called for a return to the essentials of the faith. Pastors encouraged their congregations to focus on prayer sacraments and service to others, reminding them that the Church's mission transcended any single controversy. Catholic Charities reported an uptick in volunteers as many sought to channel their anxiety into acts of compassion. In this way, the scandal, while divisive at the highest levels, also inspired a groundswell of grassroots faith and solidarity. As the week of the rumored synod approached, anticipation reached a fever pitch. Journalists camped outside the Vatican, hoping for a glimpse of key figures or a leaked document. Social media buzzed with rumors and predictions. Inside the Church, nerves were frayed, but there was also a sense of hope that a resolution, however difficult, might finally be at hand. The Vatican finally confirmed what many had anticipated: an extraordinary synod would be convened to address the crisis. Invitations were sent to bishops, theologians, and select lay representatives from around the world. The announcement was met with a mixture of relief and apprehension. For some, it was a sign that the Church was willing to confront its challenges openly. For others, it raised fears that the divisions exposed by the controversy would deepen further in the glare of public scrutiny. Preparations for the synod moved quickly. Delegates arrived in Rome greeted by a city buzzing with anticipation. Security was heightened, and the world's media descended on St. Peter's Square. Inside the Vatican, the atmosphere was tense but determined. The synod would be broadcast to millions, a gesture of transparency that underscored the gravity of the situation. The agenda was clear: to examine the theological issues at the heart of the dispute and to seek a path toward unity. The opening session began with prayer and a call for humility. Pope Leo XIV addressed the assembly, acknowledging the pain and confusion the scandal had caused. He emphasized the importance of fidelity to the Church's teachings, but also the need for compassion and understanding. His words were measured, but his resolve was evident. The Pope made it clear that the synod's task was not simply to judge, but to heal. Bishop Barron was given the opportunity to speak early in the proceedings. He stood before the assembly composed and dignified. In his address, he reaffirmed his loyalty to the Pope and the Church, but also defended his commitment to engaging the modern world with the gospel. He explained the context of his controversial statements, insisting that his intention was never to undermine doctrine, but to invite deeper reflection on the mysteries of faith. His words were met with a mixture of applause and silence, reflecting the divisions within the room. The synod quickly moved into substantive debate. Delegates raised questions about the interpretation of key doctrines, the limits of theological exploration, and the responsibilities of church leaders in a rapidly changing world. Some spoke passionately in defense of tradition, warning that any compromise would weaken the Church's witness. Others urged openness to new insights, arguing that the Holy Spirit continued to guide the Church into deeper truth. The discussions were intense, but largely respectful. There was a shared recognition that the stakes were high not just for Bishop Barron, but for the future of Catholicism itself. Outside the Synod Hall, crowds gathered to pray and show support for their preferred outcome. Some held banners calling for unity and mercy. Others demanded clarity and discipline. The world watched as the Church grappled with its identity and mission. Commentators noted the historic nature of the gathering, comparing it to past councils that had shaped the course of Christianity. The sense of history in the making was palpable. As the days of debate wore on, it became clear that there would be no easy answers. The issues at stake touched on fundamental questions of authority, tradition, and the relationship between faith and reason. Yet amidst the tension, there were also moments of grace. Delegates who had arrived as adversaries found common ground in their shared love for the Church. Private conversations led to unexpected alliances, and the tone of the synod began to shift from confrontation to collaboration. The Pope, observing these developments, encouraged the assembly to seek consensus wherever possible. He reminded them that the unity of the Church was a gift to be cherished and protected. The final sessions were marked by a spirit of prayerful discernment as the delegates worked late into the night to draft a statement that would address the controversy and chart a way forward. In the closing moments of the synod, a profound silence settled over the assembly as delegates prepared to vote on the final statement. The document, shaped by days of intense debate and late-night negotiations, acknowledged the complexity of the issues and the pain caused by division. It reaffirmed the Church's commitment to both doctrinal integrity and respectful dialogue, calling all members to humility and unity in the face of disagreement. Pope Leo XIV to address the gathering one last time, urging forgiveness, patience, and renewed dedication to the Church's mission in a changing world. Bishop Barron accepted the Synod's conclusions with grace, reiterating his devotion to the Church and his willingness to listen and learn. The global Catholic community, though, still processing the shock of the scandal, found hope in the willingness of its leaders to confront challenges openly and seek reconciliation. While wounds remained, the Church emerged from the crisis with a deeper awareness of its diversity and the enduring need for dialogue. The world watched as centuries-old traditions met the realities of a new era, and many were left with a sense that even in the midst of conflict, faith could inspire both courage and healing.